The NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. 21 plus and present in select states. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Welcome back, everybody. It's Wednesday, January 15th, 2025. Today, we have AL.com Director of Audience Katie Brumbelow on the show. We're going to talk about the changing landscape in social media and how that affects the business of getting you the news. First, the Star ID deadline is approaching. There's a new president for the National Baptist Convention USA, and we'll talk about how the world will be getting more Conecuh sausage. I'm Mike Morgan, and we're down in Alabama. It's been a long time coming, but we're just a few months away from the Star ID deadline for those who want to fly on a plane, reports AL.com's Heather Gann. The Real ID Act, that's the federal name, it requires that your state identification meet higher security requirements if it's being used for official federal purposes, such as taking domestic flights. Now, while there are other forms of ID you can use that already meet the requirements, such as a U.S. passport, the Star ID, as it's known in Alabama, is an upgrade on state-issued identification. On your driver license, you can tell it's compliant by a gold star in the upper left corner. Now, when you apply, you'll need 4 documents to prove your date of birth, social security number, and address. Now, there's a long list of acceptable documents on the Alabama Law Enforcement Agency's website to give you an idea of what might work for you. A certified birth certificate, social security card, a voter registration card with your current address, and a mortgage contract with your current address should satisfy the folks down at the license office. Check that website and know you got all you need before you go down there, though. You'll need the Star ID to get on a flight beginning May 7th. The new president of the National Baptist Convention USA grew up in Phoenix City, reports AL.com's Greg Garrison. The Reverend Boise Kimber has been at First Calvary Baptist Church in New Haven, Connecticut since 1986. But he grew up in Alabama. Now, he was in Birmingham Monday night to be officially given his new title at 16th Street Baptist Church. The National Baptist Convention USA is the largest black denomination in the U.S. Kimber said he wants to focus on missions and evangelism during his term. Former University of Alabama and NFL defensive tackle Marcell Dareus, remembered by Alabama fans for starring in the Tide's victory in the 2010 National Championship game, has been arrested and charged with domestic violence in Hoover, reports AL.com's Carol Robinson. Police said a woman, identifying Dareus as her boyfriend, said that during an argument he shoved her to the ground and used a metal object to strike her car, shattering the windshield. Dareus turned himself into the Jefferson County Jail. Now, before you lose all faith in the federal government, at least note that it appears to be pro-smoked sausage. It's not a secret that we put away some smoked sausage here in Alabama. A grant from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development will assure that we're going to be making more of it too. AL.com's Heather Gann reports that the $400,000 in grant money is going toward Conecuh Sausage's second manufacturing plant, which is expected to bring 50 jobs to Andalusia Industrial Park. The city of Andalusia is also putting $80,000 toward the project. The iconic Conecuh sausage is based in Evergreen. Hey, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back to talk social media and more with Director of Audience Katie Brumbelow. Y'all stay with us. Hey, thanks for staying with us, everybody. Today on the show, we're going to welcome Katie Brumbelow. She's the director of audience for AL.com and all of our media brands. Welcome to the show, Katie.
Hey, thanks for having me, Ike.
Yeah, now I say director of audience. Now this job that you have stays so far out on the cutting edge, but it's still a new role in the grand scheme of things. And we probably ought to tell folks what we mean, I guess, by audience, first of all, and what a director of audience is.
Our team tries to make sure that we are reaching readers with our journalism anywhere they are. So it's social, it's newsletters, it's video, it's podcasts, thinking about all the different places that we reach people. It's the website, of course, al.com. We're experimenting with the newer social media platforms like Blue Sky. When I think of like being the director of audience, is just trying to keep track of all of that. We'll keep up with all the metrics of what we know of how people respond on each of those platforms, and trying to grow our reach. And
If we can toot our own horn for a second, that reach has grown to phenomenal levels. And one of the great things about working for AL.com or AL.com's affiliated brands like down in Alabama is if you say something, it doesn't just, you know, it's not like a tree falling in the woods, right? I mean, you're going to get that stuff out there. People are going to hear, people are going to read. So thank you for that.
yeah, sure. I mean, and we're not just al.com. Like you said, we've got Down in Alabama. We have many of our other podcasts. We have It's a Southern Thing, which is one of our brands where we reach people with our comedy. And This is Alabama, which celebrates the state. And we've got our Alabama Crimson Tide, Auburn Tigers coverage. There's lots of different places where we reach people through Alabama Media Group.
Yeah, and just remind me because I was curious, what's the most successful 5 day a week podcast that the
It's
company does?
definitely, Down in Alabama.
I think it's the only 5 day a week podcast, but even even if it wasn't, I've been a. It sounds weird to say it. I've been a podcast host for years now, and I've worked on. I've worked for you and your team, and several others during that time. But I still speak newspaper. That's that's my language right there. So for those out there like me, I know we have a lot of old newspaper folks in the audience as well. You might say your team is kind of like what happened if you combine the circulation desk with the page design desk, with the copy desk, with the web team that we used to have. Am I leaving out any desks for what you do?
Hey, yeah, you're right. We got the slot folks in here. I mean, we got
Hmm,
everybody. So, but there's like so many different front pages now. Like you don't just have a newspaper that's, on the
that's right.
corner at your store. There's so many different front pages for where people start their days. And most people nowadays, it's their phone in one way or another, but they go to so many different, some people start their day in their email. Some people start their day in social. Um, it's varied, and so that's why it's so important for our team to understand that and do that. It's um not as simple as the days of just putting together a newspaper and having what we kind of thought is one place where people got all their news.
Yeah, it's like we're putting out a whole bunch of papers. Now you're like me, and
Yeah,
you cut your teeth on the design and copy desk teams for newspapers. Um,
that's right.
yeah, tell me this: did your friends and kinfolks ever figure out exactly what you did for a living?
No, I think they thought it was like it in the movies. It was just like it was kind of, it seemed fantastical in some way.
Well, see, that's it. I figured out how to describe what I did by just telling people I'm the guy who gets to yell, "Stop the presses."
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah, every now and then I got to put the phone call in. which I felt terrible when I had to. It was because like we made a really dumb mistake in a headline. Was what would happen. It's like, please stop the presses. We made a bad mistake.
Oh no! Now on and this is being a more serious note, but a story I tell. The only time I've ever ran downstairs to do a immediate full stop, which costs money, was the Olympic Park bombing when that happened.
Oh wow.
So, and I was the guy. I was the stop the presses guy during that. But well, now we're in a whole new world. We don't smell like ink anymore. Is uh, there may be even less awareness of what's being done behind the scenes. What are the biggest misconceptions you'd say about jobs working in specifically in social media?
Oh wow. I I probably people. I think a lot of times when people think of social media, they just think of probably things that are meant to like trap you in your feeds.
Mhm.
It's been a long time with in news of people being like, oh, you guys just want to make crazy cat videos, don't you? And it's really, it's not that we don't sometimes, if there is a crazy cat thing going on in Alabama, we definitely want to share it with everybody. But
Sometimes it's news, right?
yeah, but I think sometimes I think it's seen as we're here just to like hype things up or make things more exciting than they might be, just to try to get clicks. And um, that's I don't think that's the case at all. I think we're just trying to make sure that we're informing people or enlightening people, intriguing people, helping people have a great day, helping people know more about what's going on in their world. Um, and sometimes we can have a lot of fun with it, which is great. Sometimes we get the opportunity to do some really cool stuff and do some stuff that may be kind of uh, based on some TikTok trends or something
Mhm.
like that. Um, but yeah, we're. I think sometimes I think with journalism in general, sometimes the people believe that we're inflating things for the sake of clicks and
Right,
um,
right.
for all the money. And it's I think it's very far from that. We're trying to inform people and um like I said, inform people, enlighten people, entertain people, and sometimes change laws, lives, and minds.
What would you say is the line there? What is um I'm gonna use a word that we hate and we certainly hate what it is, clickbait, because lots of clickbaits out there. What defines clickbait versus something that might be light news, but is you know, definitely news or information that people want?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty easy for us when I think of something that is clickbait. It's something that's trying to just get you in and never tells you what you're looking for. I see it a lot with videos nowadays, especially like I come across my Facebook feed or my Instagram feed. I even recognize the voiceover with it. That's like this, it's like this voice that's very deep, and you won't believe what happened when this person did this. And you watch the video and you never get it, like you never get the whole video. It doesn't end. Or it has an image that looks really cool and intriguing, and then you click on it and you never see that image again. And
That's
and
right.
you just know, you just feel like you were lied to, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
We talk about that kind of stuff a lot in in our newsroom about writing good headlines, making good social posts, video. You don't want to mislead uh, your readers. You don't want to mislead your audience. We want to be able um, if we give you an enticing enough headline or image to get you to click through, we're going to tell you what it is. If we asked you a question, or say we're gonna inform you about what it is. It's not
Yeah.
meant to mislead. So there's
When that headline gives me a question, I want an answer in the story.
yeah, exactly.
Well, you know, I said it before, AL.com. I think I used the word phenomenal. It's probably the first time I've used that word this year. Phenomenal success engaging with audience. I think I'm speaking the language. I'm trying to move on from newspaper language now. And y'all have grown audience like crazy, continue to. A lot of that growth was in a free for all social media atmosphere, AL.com's strength is having reported stories. People want to read, not clickbait, the kind of stuff people want to read, and we answer the questions, and that has helped, make us hugely popular in Alabama. But as politics changed, I think politics led this. People started getting uglier and uglier at each other. Social media platforms have tried to tamp down either vitriol or fake news that's out there, or just to kind of get rid of, political squabbling on their sites. And some claim try to quieten down one side or another. This is a really long question, I realize. In all of this crazy, though, what has it done to social media efforts made by news folks who just want to share journalism like what you talked about?
Yeah, I think it was sometime last year, uh Instagram, Meta, which is the parent company that owns Instagram and Facebook, WhatsApp. But on Instagram, they had specifically said, we're going to stop putting amplifying political stories in people's timelines. Facebook, Instagram, Meta all have an algorithm in the background that tries to understand what each of us like as an individual, the things that we want to see on our feed, and then it tries to give us more of those things. But Instagram specifically said that it was going to try to not do that as much with politics unless we opted into it. And there was a little way you could go into your settings and say, I'm cool with politics. On Facebook, they just said we're gonna try to not amplify that stuff. Um, but very recently, Mark Zuckerberg announced that they were going to rescind that and just let politics be part of the algorithm, just like everything else. But to your question, um you know we saw a little bit of that dip in what people were were reading. We would share political stories, and especially when we shared like direct links of things, we weren't seeing people click on them as much, and not seeing as much engagement. We're able to see, when we talk about engagement, it
Mhm.
means like the likes you get and the comments you get, the shares that you get, all of those add up to this engagement um, number that we look at. And we saw that go down with some of our politics. However, we really did not see it change with stories about Trump, stories about that involved Tommy Tuberville, stories that involved Katie Britt. Those stories, we still saw that people who followed AL.com, we were still reaching a lot of people with that. We got a lot of comments. There's a lot of interest, I think, in Alabama in what is happening. Alabama, by and large, voters love Donald Trump, and there's a lot of support for his policies, and there's definitely a lot of interest in what Tommy Tuberville is doing and what Katie Britt are doing. Um, and Meta recently said that, like I said, Meta recently said they were going to kind of take the throttle off of politics
Mhm.
that they had been putting, and we're interested to see how that might affect what people see from AL.com if they follow us on their feeds when we're cover the legislature, which will start next month. We should have a very busy legislative season. There have already been a lot of bills that have been put forth um, that will are really interesting. But the what's what I think is interesting about the with the trying to crack down on politics in people's feeds, um and on these different social media platforms, it is well, sorry, what I should say is, one of the things that we've seen with sharing political stories is, in the past we've just shared like links of things. We more often
Mhm.
shared like, here's a story and here's a link, and you would click on the headline on the post that you would see in your timeline.
Right.
We started to see last year that changed a bit, where people weren't clicking on things. We weren't seeing those stories get in people's timelines. We weren't seeing
Mhm.
impressions from that. So we changed our methods. We tried to share things by putting more information in the post. So instead of just giving like a little bit of information and a link, we'd say, here's a lot more that you need to know. We'd share carousels, which means multiple images, or share a what we call social card, which is like a graphic that includes some text, some more information, maybe a headline, to try and reach people. We know that Meta, Twitter, Instagram, that pretty much any social media platform wants you to stay there. They don't
Right.
want you to leave. They don't want you to click a link and jump off and leave their platform. Facebook is especially doesn't want us to do that. They used to make it easier to they had a better relationship with news organizations. It made it easier to load news stories and would put more news stories in people's feeds. And they've really throttled that significantly. But we know that it's really important to continue to reach people and help people know what's going on in Alabama. So that's why we try different methods to be able to say, okay, well, if Facebook isn't going to put links in front of people, then let's make sure that we're giving them the information that they need. And then say, hey, if you want more information, the links in the comments to get people to read
Yeah.
more of what your journalists are doing.
Yeah, and I've noticed that on Facebook more and more, and since I worked with y'all, you've gotten better and better at, if I'm in Facebook and looking at al.com stuff, I can get a story, right? I don't have to click through the internet, and I'm not trying to sell that, because we need people on our website too. We want people to read um, all 20 inches of the news story, because that's important. But you've gotten so good on Instagram, where it's never been friendly to clicking through, but I can follow al.com Instagram and get a lot of news. That continue. And to be clear about this is not just political stuff. Facebook has tamped down links, period. Right.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, we've seen it with pretty much everything across the board, but definitely Facebook intentionally said we're trying to tamp down on politics. But it's pretty much any organization that's trying to say, hey, here's a link, click and go somewhere else that's not on that not on Facebook, not on Twitter. The link in bio on Instagram. Those those platforms don't want you to leave.
Right.
They want you to stay there. They want to be able to keep serving you advertising and you things to keep you on those platforms. And so, but we know that that's where a lot of people are. We know that we
Right.
have a large audience there, so we're going to continue to be there.
Mhm.
I've been asked before, like, why don't have you thought about leaving Twitter, or what do you think with the things changing on Facebook? Does your organization ever think of leaving them? And as long as we know that we have audience there and there's people who that we need to reach and that we want to make sure are having access to what our journalists are working on, and then the great coverage that we have, we're going to keep being there as long as we're allowed to be there.
Okay. Look, I'll make a personal observation. You could tell me how 2024 was. I worked with social media a part of my time during the 2020 election, which had a pandemic right on top of it. And I have never in my life blocked and banned more users. But here's the thing: who I blocked and banned were fake accounts, and I am so certain that that's the case. They weren't just ugly people, which is what you think of when you think of block. I would. Uh, First of all, adult ADHD is real, and I would go down rabbit holes with where someone would be just spouting off something, and I would go to their Facebook page, and I'm just going to give an example, and I could do everything for every side, but it would be someone clearly trying to ramp up people, say on the right, to be angry at the world. It would be something that was not coming from a real, genuine political reader, yet it was there to inspire their anger. Eh,
Mhm.
In 2024, did you see as many fake accounts and things that are don't just look really fishy like that?
Yeah, and it was really like really big around the pandemic, and even 2016, like during that, or I guess, yeah, around that election too, we saw a lot of fake accounts. But still keep seeing them all the time. We've done a really great job. We actually have like a what we call third party tool. We have a tool that we use, a product that helps us moderate those kinds of things, and catches what are obvious bot accounts, obvious spam accounts. But we still see them come through a lot. Facebook tries its best too with its own moderation to get rid of those. But we still see it, and a lot of times it comes through with, especially if we have breaking news, we'll see things where we'll post something about breaking news that happens, and then you'll see in the comments something like, here's a video from the police officer when it happened, and it's like it's a fake link. It's from an account that probably is very new. If you go and click on the account, and we'll see it with other things too, where we'll have posts that end up getting a lot of comments, and then you'll see some random person comment about how beautiful they think someone is, and they wish they were friends, and you should come click on my account to follow me. And we'll do everything that we can to try and ban those, report them to Facebook so they can see. And then we use that tool also. I go in there a lot and just put in like common phrases and combinations that I see from these accounts to flag those, um, to block them. Um, it's hard to tamp down on,
Mhm.
and we see it a lot. And most, I think nowadays a lot of them are really meant to just try and lure people in to try and scam them out of their money, and in some way or some form. And a lot of the times they look like legitimate accounts. They'll appeal to people's patriotism. They'll appeal to people's faith, um, and it can be sometimes hard to discern between a real person and a fake account. But since we are monitoring and see a lot of it, we see a lot of the trends, and
Mhm.
what like, we'll see the same kind of phrases over and over, and can
Yeah.
go, oh, this is definitely a tell.
Yeah. Yeah. If there is someone who I don't agree with, say they have an economic policy that I think is dumb, um, man, I really want to believe a lot of bad stuff about that person. So I suddenly become gullible, and I will bite on a headline that says this person with this dumb economic policy lied about all this stuff in his personal life. Well, people are really, these people we're talking about really take advantage of that. And this is where fake news starts, right?
Yeah, yeah. Some of it is to take advantage of people, and I think some of it is just to keep misinformation out there and disinformation out there, just to confuse us, to
Yeah. Yeah.
distract us from the other important things in our lives, and
The most peculiar person of our time, whose name is going to be all over the history books, probably more than any of these presidents, is Elon Musk. And when he bought Twitter, uh, collective brains exploded all over the place. We've seen the rise of Blue Sky, which is a left wing. By the way, Twitter has angered people over the years, way predating Elon Musk. I think because it's just so horrible there politically. And I joined the first right leaning alternative website and the first left leaning alternative social media platform where everyone was going to go just because I wanted to be there. Those fizzled out.
Mhm.
So I have not bothered to join Blue Sky or whatever's going on the right side at all. what has happened to that landscape? Have we lost engagement on Twitter?
It's changed in some ways. We still have a lot of engagement on that platform, in the way that we reach people. And like I said before, it is like on platform reach. We do continue to see a dip in people who actually click on our news stories and go through. Twitter has always, though, been it's not been a place where we get a ton of traffic to our stories, but there are people who have been on Twitter, who are just very loyal to the platform, and they're very loyal to the things that they follow there. Twitter was always a great place for sports, especially, and for news. So I know a lot of people, like you said, have left, and gone to other platforms. I think it's still there's still audience there. It's probably seems a little more fractured than it was in the earlier days of Twitter. And then that people have moved. There's been people who've moved to Blue Sky. There's people who have moved to Threads. But it's still a place where we reach people. But again, we've had to change our tactics in the way that we share things there. Elon Musk has said, that we should just be writing our stories on the platform and not trying to get people to link off. They've even got some different tools where you can just write within the platform. But we don't do that. We still try to link people to our stories. But we, like I said, it's the same thing with Facebook or any other platform. As long as we have people there who are engaging with our content, and we're going to continue to be there. It's we're on Blue Sky. We've experimented a lot there, and we've grown a lot of followers there. It's much smaller than our Twitter following, but our Twitter following was very small at one point, 1.2. And yeah, it does seem like it's a different kind of audience. In some ways it's left leaning, but it also is the same way with Twitter. People are developing kind of their own bubbles of people who they follow and groups who they follow, and they flock to, there's people who like to follow sports things. There's people who like to follow authors. There's people who are really into sci-fi, and they come together and they that starts to kind of create their own, their feed is going to be filled with more of those things.
Mm.
So it's such an early stage of developing what that platform might look like if it sticks around. And depending on what happens, whoever might end up buying Blue Sky, who knows? It's such a weird landscape of knowing what the future holds, for anything, because Twitter has changed so much.
Yeah.
Blue Sky is in its infancy. Facebook has changed so much. Facebook has gone through so many iterations of, like, well, heck, I've talked to a couple of days about how when I remember being on Facebook back when you had to be in college to be on Facebook. And the only people I was on Facebook with were the people who I was in classes with at Auburn. So, and now, and it's gone through a period of time where it loved news. It welcomed news. It wanted us to work together and be a part of it. And it really helped Facebook grow by having news organizations on its platforms, because there was more things going in people's timelines, and we became part of the algorithm. And then Facebook realized they didn't need us as much, and then they moved on to other things. And then it became more about groups. And then now it's there was video, and then there wasn't video, and now it's video again, but it's vertical. It's such a changing thing. And I mean, and heck, it hasn't been around for 20 years, maybe a little more than that. So it's just such a changing, social media is such an incredibly changing landscape, and there's always going to be something new on the horizon, I think, for people to decide to either add to their repertoire of the many social media platforms that they'll be on, or that they'll choose to go to in spite of something else. And we're just going to continue to try to figure out how to be there. Right now we're dealing with the whole TikTok ban. TikTok's supposed to be out the door on January 19th, but they've got a legislation forward that says, that says maybe if they can pass it, it'll get 270 more days. And we're looking at other platforms that might, where people are flocking to if TikTok does go away. One thing we do know is people love TikTok, and they're going to find somewhere else to watch their really cool videos if it's not going to be TikTok. Facebook sure hopes it's them. Facebook hopes it's Instagram and Facebook. But it could be something else.
By the way, and before I let you go, and I'll let you go, that was wonderful. Everything you said, it really helps us. It gives us an idea of what's going on. I love hearing someone who's a director of audience, which includes social media management, say Twitter, because I am not knocking Mr. Musk. I'm not knocking Mr. Musk here at all. I think I will never question, by the way, I will never question a business decision he makes, but I can't call it X. That's too weird. I mean, Twitter's too ingrained into our vernacular.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a tough one. And I don't even I often catch myself, and I did not this time, so my bad. But yeah, it's hard to call it X because you still call it tweets, and it's really hard to reinvent something to take the name of something like that, and make it just X.
I'm in the boat that believes that if he did it, there's some form of brilliance behind it. I know a lot of people don't like him with politics and Trump and all, but I think he might have done with that X thing what Coke had in the back of their mind with New Coke, where they thought they would come out of it with a billion New Coke fans and then bring back Coke Classic. Well, now you've got X. He's rebranded it. He's put everything Musk onto it, and yet everyone still says Twitter. He has not lost that branding a bit. So I think it's turned out brilliant.
Read it. I mean, it's been over a year, and you still read it in many news reports where it's like X, formerly known as Twitter, because it's just it's a hard, it's just a hard thing for people. And I think it's a different, because it's just one letter. If you're reading something in writing and you just see one letter standing there on its own, I mean, it'd be like, B, formerly known as Facebook. Like, I don't know, you'd be like, you have to have an explanation with it, right?
It's awesome. It's the Prince, the formerly known as Prince thing.
Yeah, exactly. At least that was a really cool, that was just its own icon, I don't know.
Well, Katie Brumbelow, thank you so much for spending this time with us. I mean, this was enlightening, and it was funny, and it was, oh my gosh, where are we going? And I know the audience is appreciative, and I sure am. So come back anytime.
I'll come back for your quiz.
Oh yeah. Hey, you know what? I need to get that going again. Yeah. Okay. We'll set something up. You're definitely coming back for the quiz. And thanks everybody out there for listening to us. We are going to be back here again tomorrow. Until then, we're open 24 hours a day and 7 days a week on the World Wide Web at al.com.